Previously on Jav and Charles Talk Comics.
Hello, my name is Javier Gonzalez. I have beautiful hair. I'm in multiple bands, and I have the power.
Ooh, I'm getting tired. It's late on a Friday.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I just want everybody to know, late on a Friday, 8:25 p.m. Go ahead.
That they're not liking it. And it did terrible at the
Box office.
Yeah, and wasn't it Caesar said it was The Rock's fault?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. And then they go, instead of capturing them and turning them over to the government or eliminating them, they take care of them, and they've recruited and taken care of a few young mutants that way.
By murdering them.
And no, he's just 6 inches and can't get bigger.
They drew Nazis I wanted to fuck.
That was sad chicken.
And he doesn't feel like he can be inside her because another man was inside him. And she's like, you're an X-Men. We have someone inside us all the time. Just get in me and you'll get over it. I mean, I think that was the conversation they were having.
It's science.
This is going to be the opener. It's just going to be you saying all this stuff. I'm just going to cut me right out. That's the opener to this podcast. You can like the pod. This is a pod. We are not pod people.
Okay.
We're podcasters.
Oh, okay.
Nomenclature is important, and you're a jackass.
It's not as bad as my brother has it. You know, in the rodeo, they put something around his balls so that he'll buck them.
If they were trying to do a minuscule percentage of the shit that they try to do to everybody else to white men, there ain't no way they'd be down for that. And I think you're absolutely right about all of that. No, you keep your hypothetical weird science stuff out of Mike. I remember when comic books didn't have weird science stuff about time travel or alternate universes or timelines. God damn it. Get off my lawn.
So we did read another comic. It was suggested by
Wait, we
me.
did?
Shut
What?
up. Overdoing a bit. I don't want to point and laugh at people because they're different. I want to point and laugh at people like you who are the same. They need to do what they need to do and put Peter Parker and Johnny Storm together. Oh my God. And welcome to Jav and Charles Talk Comics. Hi there, and welcome to the final episode of Jav and Charles Talk Comics for the year. That's right, we have finally reached the season finale of Jav and Charles Talk Comics. It was a long and arduous journey. I know some of you have listened, and I know it's been torture, and it's probably been more torture waiting for us to actually put out this final podcast that we promised you. And here it is. You're very welcome. I am one of your hosts, Charles Herring, and I am here with my very, very good friend, Javier Gonzalez. Hi, Jav. How are you?
I'm good, Charles. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It is a pleasure to finally be back with you. We were supposed to drop this podcast the day after Thanksgiving, and it is 2 weeks past Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
Thanksgiving, this is what day? Today is Thursday, right? This is...
Yes, 2 Thursdays after Thanksgiving.
2 Thursdays, so it is, here we go, I'm going to do it. Literally.
Yeah!
It is.
Yeah! Right off the bat!
Yeah, it is literally 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, and we are just recording the podcast. So this podcast should be dropping sometime mid-January. I would like to welcome you to January and the new year. No, hopefully I'll be able to get it out quicker than that, but I make no promises.
Well, maybe before March Madness.
Well,
of next year.
Yeah, maybe. Possibly.
Okay.
Again, no promises. No promises whatsoever. I mean, I would like to get it before I go to Hawaii in January. I'm going to Hawaii in January.
Not even humble brag, just bragging about going to
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
No, that's not bragging. That's excited. I'm excited.
I'm excited for you.
Yes,
I am excited for you.
I have never been to Hawaii. I'm very excited to go to Hawaii, so I'm going to. Today, as we normally do, we are going to talk about 2 comics. But before we do that, since this is the season finale, and there will be a new season, I think I mentioned that we were renewed.
Yes, yay.
But by me, as I've said the last few years, I'm not done with Jav yet. And right. I mean...
And he kind of means it in a sinister way, everybody, just so you know. I feel personally excited and emotionally threatened.
You like it.
But you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I do kind of dig it. It's weird. Does that mean make me a masochist or a sadist? If I like the...
It makes you a masochist.
Okay.
And why did you just assume I would know the difference between them?
I just saying, you're the one saying...
A masochist is someone who likes to be hurt or enjoys being hurt in some way. And a sadist is a person that enjoys hurting people.
You're the one that has all the S&M stuff hanging on the wall behind you. So, and I know you watch... Oh, never mind. I can't even do a joke. What's the name of that movie? The Gray movie, where it's all about the dude and the girl, the lady.
Oh, God, no, I've never watched that.
Gray Matters, gray stuff.
I don't know. I have blanked on the name.
It was those books, remember? And
I
they made
do.
them into a movie.
I do know what you're talking about. I can't remember it. And now at this point, even if I do remember it, you're trying to pull a joke like, aha, see, you know all about it.
Yeah, no, see, it's just, this is... So, hey, season finale starting off great!
So, we do have... I want to start off, sometimes I do it in the middle, sometimes I do it right off the bat. It really excites you when I do this. So, we have mail.
Yeah! We do.
It is from your wife.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. This is not the best thing that we do on this show. What did Hav do wrong? He's evidently currently not done anything wrong that's amusing, I'm sure. Don't worry, Hav. I'm sure you've done something wrong. But I got an email back on October 3rd. So we've had a few podcasts since then. We got an email from my brother, Patrick Herring, October 3rd. And the message, it said, it's currently October 3rd, but I figured if I wanted to get an email on the season finale of season 3, then I better write it now. So here we go. Wow, what an amazing season this was. I really liked when Jav or Charles made that joke about that comic. Charles saying literally made me laugh. Jav kept clicking his pen. Ha ha ha. Boy, oh boy, I cannot believe that Jav/Charles picked that terrible/wonderful comic book. Wow, what a stinker/amazing book. Boy, I am really looking forward to season 4. I'm so sad there won't be a season 4. Well, I have to go. The space raptors are gathering outside my door, and I have to grab my machete and clear them out so my children can get to the cyber park. Boy, the future is weird. In all seriousness, congratulations on 3 seasons, and I look forward to many more. So thank you very much, Patrick. That was great.
That was awesome. Thank you, Patrick. That was, yes, you got a couple of huff cows out of me there. That was pretty good. Thank you. That is awesome. So I don't know if you said season 3, episode of 17.
Yes, we did.
Thank you very much.
We did 17 episodes this year. All of them literal bangers.
Sure. I'm gonna assume that's a good word for making good pods.
Yeah, sure.
Banger pods.
Yeah, banger pods. Cool.
That sounds really bad. Banger.
Yeah,
pod sounds nasty.
I don't want to be part of a banger pod group.
Yeah, there's something there again.
It's a consortium of podcasters who they call themselves the Bangers, and I don't want to delve into Hav's kinks anymore.
Let's just say if you go to Comic-Con and you're invited to the Banger Pod party, you want to go, but just know what you're getting into. Okay. So
you do want to go. See, that's what I said. I don't want to delve too much into Hav's kinks.
There you go. Well, let's just leave it at that, shall we?
I think we're both. I want to apologize to all of our listeners at the moment because I think both Hav and I are really pumped up right now and excited to do the season finale, and we're also both delaying talking about the comic books we read like 6 months ago and don't remember a goddamn thing about.
That and Ethel had some thoughts on it, and yes, Ethel, God darn it, I agree. We're both pumped up, but I'll tell you, we're recording this in the evening, and I'm trying my best to get all pumped up, but I didn't want to ingest any caffeine like apparently Ethel did. I should stop putting coffee in her water bowl. The vet says that's a bad idea. I don't want to apologize ahead of time. I'm gonna do great. I'm trying to get pumped up, and Ethel's gonna chime in every once in a while, as she's prone to do. Apparently, she hasn't barked like this all evening. I swear to fucking God. Nothing. Been quiet. And as soon as she knows. Okay, so yeah, just trying to get pumped up. I am pumped up. I'm ready to go. We suggest. Hey, it's called Jav and Charles Talk Comics, and guess what we did? We read some comics
today. Our first comic we're going to talk about is Watchmen, because we finally, after 3 seasons, decided to talk about the comic book that probably made all this other comic books that we like and love over the last few years possible, right? It comes from that?
It changed the game.
Yeah. It said, hey, comic books can be more than just I know you say, hey, they made Suicide Squad at the same time. That's not the same. Not Suicide Squad.
Or Squadron Supreme.
Son of a mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm going to shove that chicken up. Anyway.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Oh, God. Guys, I apologize for anything that might happen later. Hav jumped on the pre-pod thing so overly sexualized tonight. Okay. I mean, he is just riled.
Wow.
He is just riled up. So I apologize for anything he says on the pod. I'm just pre-apologizing. I'm going to try not to let him get canceled for this, but I don't know if I can control him. So as I was saying, Watchmen really is the granddaddy comic of, hey, comic books aren't just for kids. Comic books can be... Even superhero comic books aren't just for kids.
That I was going to say there. So
yes, I know other comic books.
There have been underground comic books. Mm-hmm. There have been adult comic books that were definitely not for kiddos before Watchmen. But Watchmen,
they kind of brought that up in Watchmen themselves.
Yeah. So you suggested Watchmen, and just so we can say off the top, and then I suggested House of M. Mm-hmm. That, of course, came out substantially later in the aughts. So we're going to hold form, and we're going to talk about Watchmen because it came out in 1986. Believe it or not. Way back in the middle of the Reagan era, first issue, September of 86.
And I was 13 when that comic book came out. I did not read that until I was probably in my 30s.
I was going to say I was maybe I read it in college, for sure in law school. I'd heard of it. I bought the trade. I've had the same trade forever. It's so substantially later, at least in the 90s, in probably late 90s was when I read it, had heard about it, had read about it. It was famously and rightfully so named by like Time Magazine, I want to say, as one of the top 100 pieces of literature of the 20th century period. English, I think maybe limited to the English language.
I don't know if I would go that far, but it is incredibly good.
Yes. I mean, so Alan Moore wrote it. Everybody that kind of knows, but just in case, and I know I overuse it, but the great Alan Moore penned this, and I don't think I'm going too far to say this masterpiece, and it was drawn by Dave Gibbons in a very distinctive style. The panel setup, in reading it, and we'll get into some of the plot and everything, I'm sure, but in reading it this way, I have the trade, but I read it on my Chromebook that can turn into a tablet, and zooming in frame by frame made me appreciate sequential storytelling that Gibbons did in tandem with Moore's writing, because there were panels after panel that were the same, but just slightly different, and in a good way, not in a bad way, just very concise. It was, generally speaking, with some exceptions, it was 3x3 panels on the page, which sure probably had been done before, but not to this level of, I don't believe, storytelling in that format. Usually you want, the big thing was the big splash pages that would come after this. It was just from top to bottom, story, themes, art, the coloring of the comic was distinctive and unique. There was a lot of bright colors that just caught the eye. So that's a little off the top, just to get going.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed that you came out with all of that, because I remember you telling me right before we started to record that the thing you most liked about it was just the nudity.
Well, yeah.
And yes. That's, well, like I said, but I'm glad you didn't, I'm glad you fleshed that out, as it were, as we went forward.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
It wasn't subtle.
There is, you get some full frontal of old Dr. Manhattan strutting around.
Not just Dr. Manhattan, you get to see lots of butt of
True.
multiple characters. I'm sorry, that was me trying to be funny. There is a lot of sex in this for a comic book. There's a lot of everything in this comic. There's a lot of sex, violence, there's horror, there is just a true horror comic in the midst of it.
Slasher gore,
Yes.
politics to the umpteenth degree.
I love how they show how brutal comic books could be. That seems to be this may be one of the first times that they did that in a comic. I know it's been done a lot since then. I mean, Mark Millar glorifies in it. Mark Millar glorifies in it. He just absolutely bludgeons people in his. Didn't he do Kick-Ass?
Isn't Millar also The Boys?
Yeah.
Or is that that's Garth Ennis?
That's Garth Ennis. But some of these guys, they show what can happen when you're absolutely beating the ever-loving snot out of a guy. And this does it. I mean, the scene where, again, I'm having trouble with names. The Night Owl and what's her name are
Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre have a gang of thugs going to mug them, and they just brutalize that group.
Well, let's start off with the intro where comedians getting
Murdered,
the ever-living snot kicked out of them by an unknown assailant, and it's incredibly violent. And as opposed to run-of-the-mill comic book violence where there's pow bang and nobody's bloodied, nobody's missing teeth. He looks like he was beat up badly. So yeah. Here's the before we again getting into all that, the way it starts too. There's no opening scrawl like for Star Wars to explain where we're at in this universe. You get dropped in, but like a good comic book, you learn really fast what the status quo of this universe is just by reading. Yeah, and learning more, and you get into it, and it's just it's Alan Moore can do.
It's 1986, and Richard Nixon is still president.
And the reason is this Dr. Manhattan, there's a news flash at some point in the comic where there is a Superman and he's American. Manhattan. He's got powers. There is a news flash that says something like that in the comic, I swear. And because of that, he comes to being apparently before Watergate, and then we the United States in this universe wins Vietnam. And Nixon gets a constitutional amendment to, I guess, be president, he
removes the...
as many times as he wants.
Yes, and he just keeps getting elected.
Yeah, and they talk about that.
Some of the things, since you brought that up, about Watergate, the comedian kills Woodward and Bernstein.
Oh, no, he killed Kennedy.
That went both ways. That went both ways. They're like, one thing said no, he wasn't there, and the other said he was there, and so he may have killed Kennedy. He also killed Woodward and Bernstein. The funny thing is, no one is a good guy, and people talk about Alan Moore sometimes talking about how he's this right winger because of some of his comic book characters, but they're not the good guys. The comedian is a right winger and not a good guy. Rorschach it would fit perfectly in with QAnon and the extreme right now, and he is
and conspiracies.
He is a massive conspiracy. He is a whack job, and then the big bad of the whole thing is, I think they were trying to, because I've heard people say, well, see, he was making this liberal guy. He's not liberal. He's an autocrat. Ramses II, whatever, Ozymandias. He is not a good guy.
Ozymandias, yes.
He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and so he should make his will. The
self-proclaimed smartest man in the world.
And everything about this thing is just it's just piercing for the comic book genre politically, where people are, how people interact, the horror of living in New York during Reagan's presidency. That was just a joke political thing. But
more having all these fanboys that love Rorschach.
Oh yeah. Everybody, this whole group, he's the hero. He kind of is, but he's not. The hero seems to be the everymen of Night Owl and Silk Spectre, who were... If there's a hero, there doesn't have to be a hero.
There might not be a hero because
everybody's. They're all, look, The only two people that aren't awful are Night Owl and Silk Spectre. They're not awful. They're just people who happen to be superheroes and get off on beating up criminals. And by the way, I had forgotten how much, when we were making jokes earlier in the first season, I was making the jokes about, whatever two people want to do if they want to dress up in in costumes and beat each other up. That might have been where I got that whole thing, because when they get in that fight with the muggers, they get all horned up.
Yeah.
It is shining a light on that type of personality and possibly why they're into it. Except that doesn't seem to be why Rorschach is into it.
Rorschach. Like the Rorschach test.
I know, and I'm trying to find it in my head, and it will not come out of my mouth correctly. So
okay,
just go ahead and mock me, you son of a bitch.
I am not. I was just trying to.
I know.
Suicide Squad trying to tell you that, maybe that wasn't the right exact word. No, and Alan Moore's on the record in at least one interview I remember reading about that if Rorschach is their favorite character, then they just missed the complete boat on on what he was trying to get across.
Yes.
Not that Rorschach didn't do some things that maybe some people would want to do, like kill a child molester also killed a girl.
Hey, he did things that people have layers. He's more of a disturbed individual than he is a bad guy. You know what I mean? He's the one that when you do put him on trial for his crimes, you put him away in a psychiatric institution instead of...
And study him.
Well, no, but you try to help him. You try to help him. Because there's something wrong with that poor dude.
Well, and
that whole thing about his face. Oh, yeah, his mom, his backstory, his mother being a whore. I'm sorry, a sex worker.
Yes. And then here's the thing I had forgotten, having not read it in for a while. I'd forgotten why his mask moved, and it's because it was a certain type of fabric that he was working as a tailor in something where they had this leftover fabric that would change design. It was going to be the next new by that I think Ozymandias' company made. It was
a fabric about Dr. Manhattan.
A fluid fabric.
It was a fluid fabric so that it would move around, and that's why the blobs and what have you. So he made a mask out of it, and he calls it his face. He is that superhero. He is the Batman of this, even though, well, in a lot of ways, Night Owl and him, if you put them together, are Batman.
Yep. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, because he's I'm the all costume and tied, and the other one's the analytical, I'm going to solve this and have gadgets and do all of that. So you put the two together and you have the insane lunatic with money, and then the guy with money, and that's Batman, an insane lunatic with money. So
I'm not going to argue with any of that.
Yes.
I mean, but take into the umpteenth, maybe it's natural progression. If you go down that trail,
it's the extreme. I love the juxtaposition of when you first read Watchmen, you don't notice the homeless. Well, you notice the homeless guy, but you don't know that's
Rorschach.
Thank you, Rorschach. Just can't say it. I don't know why.
Roar like a lion, and then Shack. Roar, Shack. Roar like a lion, Shack. I'm just saying. I have words like that where I can't say the city Schenectady. Nope.
Okay. So,
for example,
Rorschach is this homeless guy who is wandering around, so he is always on scene. The first time you see a homeless guy right after the comedian is killed, there's a guy cleaning the blood off the streets. There's a homeless guy walking by, the end is nigh, and Rorschach is narrating, and he says, the accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waist, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, save us. And I'll look down and whisper, no.
Yeah.
And that's all these people's heroes.
Well, and I think some people glommed onto that because very much so in the comic, he is the narrator of the comic at some level because of his journal entries that you read pretty much every issue, I think.
Yes.
I think for some reason, maybe that made people think he was somehow the good guy. I was going to also tell you or mention there doesn't have to be a good guy. Of course, Ozymandias thinks he's the good guy, just like the best bad guys always think they're the good guys, or do what needs to be done because somebody needs to step up and do what the hard thing.
Yeah, you need me on that hill. You want me on that hill.
Exactly.
You're goddamn right. Sorry.
There you go. Silk Spectre and Owlman. I can't say Owlman.
I thought it was Night Owl.
I'm sorry, Night Owl. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My bad.
I'm just so proud of the fact that I know the name of a character.
Hey, do you remember the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon's girlfriend points out that Indiana Jones and Karen Allen's character Marianne have no really effect on what happens to the Ark?
I loved that idea. I've said that to people and they get so angry about it. I can make it worse. It would have killed Hitler. There's no way in hell if they didn't go through all that, they wouldn't just take it right back to Hitler. And he'd have gone straight back to Hitler. He'd opened that motherfucker up and...
Okay. See, I didn't even think of that. Well, in very much that same vein, Night Owl and Silk Spectre, although very much throughout the whole comic, they really don't affect the outcome.
No, they're along for the ride. Yes. The whole thing was all preordained. There you go. Ozymandias planned out the entire thing, including making it so Dr. Manhattan would not realize what was going on, and he thought he had it, but he thought was going to trap Dr. Manhattan, but I loved that. That's the first thing I learned to do. That was brilliant.
But there is also Alan Moore in this comic somehow delves into these huge topics like free will versus fate.
Yes.
And you have Dr. Manhattan who experiences time all at once. And it says, 20, he can jump from time as if he was there reliving it. And then you do get into this enough so that I probably need to reread it again. Just the loops.
Dr. Manhattan. Yeah, Dr. Manhattan is always talking about. It's 1965. I'm in a meeting this person. It's 1977. It's 10 minutes in the future, and I'm on Mars talking to whatever the name of Silk Spectre is that eludes me. It is just including when him doing in that loops makes her realize who her father is,
and that she blocked it out. And
yes.
And you get into all that with Silk Spectre is the second Silk Spectre. She took up the moniker and the mantle after her mom. Mm-hmm. And you get into all that. Her mom's attempted rape by
the comedian.
And then apparently some years later, they get together consensually.
And they make a baby.
So, and you have that whole scene where, hey, can't a guy just talk to his daughter? And she had blocked it out until he's getting her to think about why she feels the way she does. It's a 12-issue limited series. One of the times, many times we said something should have been longer, something should have been shorter. This is as darn near perfect as you can get when it comes to telling a story beginning, middle, and end.
Yes, it is not extraneous. Everything in it works. There is a whole theme running through it talking about missing people, and one of the missing persons is a comic book writer that then went on to write movies and things, and one of the characters in the thing is a young man that hangs out at a newsstand reading a comic book, and that's the writer that's disappeared's most famous comic book. And then it turns out these people are on an island helping plan Ozymandias is the whole story of how he's going to fake an alien attack, so then there won't be a world war. But first he has to make Dr. Manhattan go away. Now, when I said all of this was preordained, even in it wasn't preordained because some of the things happened because he started it, but then he had to take other actions to stop it, like kill the comedian, because he wasn't going to kill the comedian. He only killed the comedian because the comedian found out what was going on and kept talking
and then poured his heart out to Morlock, who was working for one of Ozymandias' companies, and his apartment was bugged.
Yes,
and so got himself in the crosshairs.
Yep, and it just everything about it. The interesting thing about Dr. Manhattan is his absolute complete and total loss of humanity.
Darn near. I mean, at the very end, remember,
she talks him into coming back to save the world, basically. But
at some point, he does say that he had forgotten. I mean, he's so far removed at that point, but he does at one point say that he had remembered how unique everything is, and he goes on a little thing where at the end he realizes just enough to come back and just say his piece, essentially, because it's already happened.
Yes,
it can't be stopped.
Well, yeah, it had already happened when they get there because of the things he did to kind of block his sight there. It was excellent.
So in '83, DC Comics, as it's been known to do, bought Charlton Comics and bought, as a result of that, all the Charlton superheroes. The Charlton Comics was a superhero comic book company, amongst other things, back in the... I don't know if it goes back to the 50s, for sure 60s into the 70s.
Well, yeah, Steve Ditko wrote for him, so it was definitely in the 60s, maybe the 50s. I don't know if he wrote there first.
Well, and for example, Night Owl is, we believe, taken from Blue Beetle from Charlton. Just a dude with a lot of money and a lot of tech. Analog there. Captain Atom was imbued with all these powers, not to the degree of Dr. Manhattan, but... like Alan Moore does, he took it and ran with it and amped him up. Nightshade was the female, do-gooder, not powered. Oh, and let me say that everybody but Dr. Manhattan, not powered.
Yeah.
They're
exceptional human beings.
Yes. Trying to do good.
Yes.
Peacemaker is, we think, the analog maybe for the Comedian, and The Question, Steve Ditko creation. There's a couple Steve Ditkos. So the Blue Beetle, Steve Ditko. The Question, Steve Ditko, is the loose analog for Rorschach. I just think, and then Thunderbolt / Peter Cannon, the loose, very loose Ozymandias. I kind of feel Ozymandias was just its own uber human peak. And the dude learned how to catch a fucking bullet.
Yes.
In his hand.
Yes.
That's how peak of whatever he is.
Yes. He's a freak of nature.
Well played, sir. Is all I have to say to that.
Set someone up to shoot him, and he knew he could catch the bullet.
Yeah.
And then
force a cyanide pill in his mouth.
Force a cyanide pill in his mouth. Yes.
You also have the Frontiersman, which is like a far right-wing rag that is the periodical that Rorschach is always going to get at the newsstand.
Yeah, he goes to the same... The newsstand is kind of a central location that a lot of the interaction goes on there. It's in the neighborhood where Rorschach lives. It's in the... And you learn about that area. I mean, there's a lesbian cab driver who gets her hustlers there, and she has a fight with her girlfriend right there while all of this is building up. The
therapist for Rorschach and his wife have it out there.
They have it out there at the end. The young man that's sitting there, there was a really nice scene because at first the guy that runs the newsstand was telling him, man, he asked for his hat because it was raining, and he's like, man, I'm not giving you my hat. You don't do things for people. That's insane. And then when they set up Dr. Manhattan to look like he's causing cancer in everyone that he's around, and he leaves, and all of a sudden they are convinced at this point, and it was ramping up, they're convinced that there was going to be a nuclear war, and it probably would be a nuclear war, because Russia's ramping up, and they were Nixon was a nut bar and surrounded by nut bars who were saying, well, we need to first strike, we need to do all this, and so everybody's assuming it's going to happen. So he realizes at that point, and he gives the kid his hat the next day. He's like, you know what, here, have the hat. And the rest of the comic, the kid is wearing his hat, and he's not even wearing a hat. The guy didn't even get another hat. That was just a really nice touch of the things going on in this comic that are just side characters to show how everything going on by these uber powerful people, Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan, affects everyone else down on the street. So it's a real way of looking at a microcosm of these comic book universes where, okay, but what goes on for just like regular people in a comic book universe. One of the things I loved about Gwenpool, and I am not comparing Gwenpool to Watchmen in any way whatsoever.
Except,
However, when she's there, she knows it's a comic book universe, and she knows if you're just a person in a comic book universe, you are most likely going to die because of all the shenanigans going on in the comic book universe. So she makes herself something else.
yeah, you're fodder. You're
That's
expendable.
right. Yes. No one will ever know your name. So
There's your example of the hat, the whole Black Freighter comic.
Oh, the Black Freighter comic, the whole thing of isn't that an allegory of Ozymandias?
Yeah.
I mean, because he's convinced he's saving the world, but he's actually going to kill his family. I mean, basically, and he does kill his. I mean, he literally murders, and I didn't even really look at it like that when I was reading it, but he literally murders the only people there in the Arctic with him because they might figure out what he did. And then he kills he sinks the boat that was taking all of the artists back. And they're like, we did our job, and da-da-da-da-da. And two of them have been waiting, and then they decide to have sex, and they go down in the bottom of the boat to have sex, and there's a bomb down there. And they're like, well, alrighty then.
And then of the heroes, everybody's in agreement. No, this is better for the world. We're going to keep quiet. And Rorschach's like, fuck no. I'm
Yes.
telling everybody. And, well, then you're not walking out of here in one piece.
Yeah.
Dust to dust, baby.
Yeah.
And he
Well,
blows him up.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan kills him. I will say, they weren't saying, okay, we're okay with what you did. What they were saying was, well, fuck, you did it. And
it goes into another philosophical, tautological, if that's the right word, do the ends justify the means?
That's not, I don't even think that's the ends justifying the means. It's I'm saying that because I don't agree that you should have done that because I think there could be other ways to fix these problems. I'm not saying you should just murder all these people and do it. What they are saying is, it happened.
It had already been done.
It's already been done.
So why bring him to justice?
We can't. Now look. I think Dr. Manhattan should have snapped his fingers and fried Ozymandias too. You don't get to live after doing that. You don't get off scot free. But literally, the only one that could do anything about him, as we saw, would have been Dr. Manhattan, because he beats the shit with no effort out of Rorschach and Night Owl.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't break a sweat. He's like, okay, guys,
you're embarrassing yourselves.
Come on. It's like me fighting toddlers.
Yeah, I was going to say, be like you putting your hand on the forehead of a little kid trying to swing at you whose reach is like a foot.
Okay, come on.
Stop.
So, please,
I'm
afraid you're going to get hurt.
Which is what Dr. Manhattan says to Ozymandias at one point at the end there, where it's pretty much, you're concerned. I'm about as concerned about. I'm paraphrasing badly. Dr. Manhattan to Ozymandias is something like, I'm concerned about you about as much as you're concerned with the termite or insect.
Yes.
That's how far above and beyond you I am. But you've already done this.
Yes.
And because he's using tachyons to throw off Manhattan's ability to see the future, blah, 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 blah. And look, I feel like I'm getting too much in the weeds. I'm not saying you are. It's worth, to me, not maybe right away, another reread to really make note. Maybe even, I'm sure people have written umpteen essays and deep dives on the free will versus the predestination stuff that is, I believe, one of the big themes in this. But on top of that, shoot, I mean, we forget, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for you. 86, nuclear war was a real thing for us growing up.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And it becomes in this world very apparent that Dr. Manhattan is the deterrent to Russia, to the USSR. They don't go into Afghanistan until he's off the playing board.
Yeah, he left. Yeah, they immediately invaded Afghanistan the minute they found out he was off planet.
Yeah, which 86 is about when they're getting out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, they had poured.
Partly probably helped bankrupt, and helped in the downfall of the USSR, that expenditure, and trying to keep up with the USA.
Yes, that's why we need to fund Ukraine, because they're doing the same fucking thing. They're doing the same thing in Ukraine.
Oh, and then the other thing is about the war, about nukes. The minutes to midnight clock.
Oh,
That
yeah.
used to be a thing.
It still
3
is.
minutes to midnight. It still is, but it had never gotten to 1 minute to midnight.
They moved it. They moved it closer when Trump was president.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
So all these things. This you mentioned the cigarettes thing where it looks like a crack pipe.
She's smoking. Yeah, I sent Hav and Caesar a photo, and she's like, "I need a smoke," and it's a crack pipe. I don't get that. I mean,
I don't either.
It looks like a crack pipe. I didn't. How do
But
you?
they also mentioned, because of Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan, all the technological advances that really didn't affect the socioeconomic well-being, apparently, of most regular folks. They have electric cars because,
Dr. Manhattan, and he basically invented that.
Yeah.
He created a future, but none of it is helping.
Yeah.
Because of everybody else. I mean, you can't have a super powerful being make everything good. And I really have you watched the Watchmen show they did this season?
I have it written down.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because-
on HBO.
Yeah.
It's excellent. It was.
Oh
excellent.
my God, it was incredible. And I know Alan Moore doesn't like it. I honestly think it's the best Watchmen thing there is. And that sounds bad. I don't mean that in a negative way. I think because they took from it and they made this completely different thing.
Well, they fast forwarded to the present.
Yes.
To the present and it's a what if everything progressed in that universe.
Yes.
Into the future, and eventually Ozymandias is found out, and they exile him to. Do they exile him to Mars or Europa?
Someone exiles him because everyone doesn't know, because they're still making things drop on the Earth. They still think there's a possibility of a breach from another dimension.
That's right.
That's
I
the
need to rewatch
thing.
that.
Yeah, no, I need to rewatch it too because I can't remember the whole way it worked. But I loved that show.
It was, and I don't think I had read. I think I remember watching the show, thinking, "Well, I watched the whole darn thing," and I remember thinking, "I probably should have reread Watchmen, the comic book."
I think I'm gonna rewatch it now. That we've
I
just
think that's a
reread
good
it,
idea.
and it's like, oh my God, I got to watch this thing again.
You also get into the post World War II heroes,
Yes.
that were the predecessors to this current crop that get outlawed by the Keene Act. Senator Keene, apparently, I don't know if that's a real person. They outlaw the supers at some point.
No, well, yeah, this group was the one that were outlawed, but the original group, the comedian is the only one that kind of bridged that gap. Because the comedian was slightly part of the other group.
He was like 19 at the very end of their run.
Yeah.
Or something.
He had just coming in, and he was a piece of work.
We could talk. I'm sure there have been podcasts just about the Watchmen and about this comic and going.
Oh, we could
issue by issue.
Yeah,
we could do
we could do a 12 podcast doing each issue of this, going through it. Is that full of things to talk about? And then we could do a bonus podcast just talking about the arc of the pirate comic in it.
The pirate
horror
Black
comic.
Pirate. Black Freighter. Sorry,
the Black Freighter. Yes, it was. The funny thing is, I think the first time I read that, I didn't. It's not really my kind of comic, but it's grown on me. It's
not necessary, but it's fascinating to have the two plots coalescing together
in so many different ways. I mean, it is just everything about this damn thing.
The druggies, the I forget what they call them, that are on something that eventually kill Hollis Mason because they just that's so sad, and he's having the flashback to where he's bunching out,
and it was so sweet. You could see how beloved he was in the neighborhood because the kids were going to go up to see him on trick or treat. Hey, it's us again. Remember from
Mr. Mason?
Yeah, I
know,
because he just seemed like a great guy.
Yes, I would. I think I'm going to mention it. The Zack Snyder did the Watchmen movie.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was for an adaptation of a comic. He, as much as you could, he didn't go frame by frame, but man, he hit the big beats on a lot of it, except for the very ending.
Yeah, he changed it completely.
To blame Dr. Manhattan to everybody to band together against Dr. Manhattan. Mm-hmm. I liked the people that played the characters.
Yes.
But then I think, unfortunately, Jack Snyder thought all comic books were like Watchmen and should be like Watchmen. And was the problem going forward. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and the Watchmen, again, he is one of those people that leans more towards Rorschach as a hero, Zack Snyder, just about his political personality. He is very, very libertarian, and Rorschach is definitely a libertarian, and so that's what he
wackadoodle.
I said libertarian. Have you?
Aha!
No. Have you ever seen?
Well played, sir.
Have you ever seen like a libertarian convention? I mean, there's some wackadoos over there. Yeah. So DC wanted to go that way with the DC
All
universe.
properties?
Yeah. Well, they put him in charge. So yeah, they did.
Going back to the time, so 86, this comes out. I didn't do the Googling. I'm thinking it comes out before Dark Knight Returns. Do you know better than me, maybe?
I have no idea.
It's about the same time period. I know I've talked about Squadron Supreme came out slightly before, but it is very sanitized. Marvel hit some of this kind of, but not, but different.
I don't really. I gotta say, I've read them both now, and I do not put them even in the same category of comics.
No. Well, this is arguably, for this art form, in superheroes in particular, this is it.
Yeah, that and Gwenpool. So
there you go. Not that you're comparing them.
Hey,
easy, everybody. Easy. Not that he's comparing them, but Gwenpool could be Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias with her one-hand tied behind her. With Squirrel Girl was there too.
I don't know if she can beat Dr. Manhattan, but I do think she can beat Ozymandias because she has the power of the fourth wall. So once you have the power of the fourth wall, well, I guess you can beat Dr. Manhattan too because you can figure out some way to do it. But you can also defeat Dr. Manhattan with reason or by zaniness because she's zany, so she might be able to kind of work her...
Talk him around in a
circle.
Around.
Well, she's also adorable.
Yes. That is true.
And he likes him young. That bothered.
Wow. Yeah. That was, hey.
That wasn't even, there was some inappropriate stuff in there.
She was 16?
She was 16.
And caught Dr. Manhattan's eye.
Yes, and he made sure he got what he wanted.
He still had his humanity then, if you know what I mean. That and I'm not even saying that was glaring. The nudity in for 86, and then also the no kind of context for it. Just hey, by the way, there's a lesbian cab driver. And I
actually really liked that.
Far ahead of its time. It probably caught all sorts of shit back then. I would guess.
I bet it did, especially in a comic book because there are. I mean, they were still trying to get gay characters in comic books in the early 2000s, and they were like, "Oh, these two, and how dare you retcon this character to be gay? That character, you're worried about that."
But you can have killing and gore.
Just besides, this is not a beloved character. What's his name? Or the two that got?
Iceman.
No, Iceman was even later when they had him come out.
Who was it? I don't even remember now.
I can't remember. I didn't know who they were then. Now I thought I remembered it. Somebody we've read about recently. I literally did not know who they were when it came out in the news and people were losing their crap about it. I'm like, who? And I read comic books a lot, and I'm like, I got no idea who these two characters are.
Well, and guess what? If you don't like it, don't read it. How
about
that?
I just, if they want to do it, they need to do what they need to do and put Peter Parker and Johnny Storm together. I mean, come on.
What was it? What comic was it we read where they were doing this Deadpool and Pete?
Oh yeah,
had to do the striptease.
Oh God, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was, yes. I don't know why that came to mind, but two guys getting naked together.
Yeah, no, that was not.
That was funny.
That was not how I was going to have Peter Parker and Johnny Storm naked together.
Yeah, there you go. I can see you're doing the docking,
What is docking?
I don't know. What is it? I think it was. I saw this on the show where two guys touched the ends of their penis together.
You think that's docking?
I don't know, man.
Okay.
I'm not up on the.
Google it.
Okay. You dark web Google that and tell me what you find out.
I didn't say dark web
that's
Google.
Okay.
I am hesitant to explain what docking is on this podcast because it'll get you all riled up. Oh
my God. By the way, I just want everybody to know I was not riled up. Charles has, for some reason, he's cracking himself the fuck up right now. He is trying to stifle his laughter, is backing away from the microphone because he is cracking. His head is shaking. He's laughing so hard. Oh my God, it's great.
Why are you lying about what's going on in the podcast?
Okay. I lie about a lot of stuff. I actually am a terrible liar.
Hav, a known liar, is trying to make out as if I've made up this whole thing about him being sexually riled up today.
All right. So, yeah. And scene. I don't know. I don't know. So
what I'm saying is the homework for everyone that has Hav's personal email address that listens to this pod is find out what docking is and then send him an explanation.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, let's do that.
And if you don't have Hav's personal email address, it is, no, I'm just kidding. Go to havandcharles.com and send us an email about what you think docking is, and I will have Hav read those for us on the season, the first season, for the first episode of the fourth season. That Hav will enjoy doing that.
Sure. You guys knock yourselves out with that. Oh my God, you are basking in this. This is a good laugh for you. I'm glad you're getting a kick out of this. You probably needed this. Or hey, anything else to mention? I feel like broad, we don't have to go blow by blow.
And we didn't. We really just talked about stuff in this, and we could go on for another hour, but we've been talking legitimately for quite a bit of time now on this, and I don't know if this is an amazing comic. I didn't ask if Hav liked the comic because I knew he liked the comic. He didn't ask me if I liked the comic because we knew we both liked the comic. It is incredible. I have, since I first read it, I've read it every few years just like, I should read Watchmen again. So that's kind of why I think I've even read it during the 3 years before we did this. I think I read it at some point while we were doing the podcast, just because I was like, I should read we talk about it. I should read it again. Yeah. I did want to say one thing. I have brought up the one great thing I thought that they took dead on from the movie. They took dead from the comics right into the movie, and I thought it made a great scene in the movie. I was incorrect about.
Which was?
It was the Rorschach. There's a scene in the movie where Rorschach looks up, and he's in the cafeteria, and they're going to attack him because he's Rorschach, and he goes, "You guys don't understand something. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me." And I didn't yell it like he did, but I mean, it was a great fucking take too. It is awesome. That is not in it. There is a written line from the psychiatrist going, there was an altercation in the thing, and he said in the yard or in the cafeteria, and he said, you don't understand. And he said the thing, and I was like, oh my God. But it actually worked so well reading that you kind of visualized. So when I saw the movie, it made me think, oh my God, that was directly out of the comic book, but it wasn't. It wasn't like and I get why you showed it in the movie, but I'm saying it was so well written that I literally thought, oh my God, that was in the comic book because this comic book was so perfect.
There were a lot of things though from the movie that were ripped directly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, frames.
I know.
From the panels from the comic that were shots in the movie. Well, because that one that you were thinking was from the comic put into the movie, I think that happens either right before or in the same scene where he gets the grease on the guy and puts the grease on from the cafeteria. And eventually kills the guy that sparks the prison riot. But yeah, I mean, yes, good point. Yeah, because there's stuff. I know that there was stuff that I thought was, and I can't think of any right now. Oh, we didn't even say this. There's so much stuff, filler, and not filler in a bad way, in between at the end of issues where there's these huge articles that give you so much more context of the comic. You know, the whole articles at the end of the issues. That's all I was going to say. That builds the universe even more.
I took a screenshot of something I wanted to bring up, and it was talking about it really goes into back to what I brought up earlier about, what two people want to do if they want to get dressed up, and one plays a bad guy and one plays a good guy, and they want to beat each other up, what consensual, that kind of thing. There is a whole page, and it is Silk Spectre and Night Owl. Mm-hmm. And she says, hey, you remember that one guy who pretended to be a supervillain so he could get beaten up? Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean Captain Carnage? He was one for the books. You're telling me. I remember I caught him coming out of this jeweler's. I didn't know what his racket was. I start hitting him and I think, geez, he's breathing funny. Does he have asthma? He tried that with me, only I'd heard about him, so I just walked away. He follows me down the street, broad daylight, right? He's saying, punish me. I'm saying, no, get lost. Whatever happened to him? Oh, well, he pulled it on Rorschach, and Rorschach dropped him down an elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. That isn't funny. I guess it's not. You know, that really felt good. There don't seem to be so many laughs around these days. Well, what do you expect? The comedian is dead.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that was the end of one of the 12 comics. That was the last.
That was it.
And I mean, and then he even has a Bob Dylan quote at the end.
Yeah. There's so many good quotes at the end.
At midnight, all the agents and superhuman crew go out and round up everyone who knows more than they do. So just everything about this thing was just amazing.
The whole thing about Hooded Justice, when he breaks up the rape, and you get, comedian talking to him about what he's into, and you're not into dames, huh?
Yeah,
kind of thing. And then there's some side story about that and the in between stuff, I think, that I'm blanking on. But look, again, from beginning to end, it's jam packed. Each issue is jam packed with just so much. Like we said before, you could do a 12 episode podcast. And each one could be 2 hours.
Yeah, I think this is the longest we've talked about any one comic.
Really? Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like it, but I believe it.
No, that's not a knock. I keep coming up with things we can talk about more about, but we should probably move on.
Anything in the in-between? Because I do have something for the in-between.
Go. Well, what do you got?
So I think I'd mentioned me and Julie, my wife, we went to Kansas City for a good friend of mine, Dave's 50th birthday. I've known him since high school. We've kept up over the years. And we went up there. We spent the day hanging out, and then when there was a dinner, and he invited me and Ryan, and also went to high school with him. And then we had this huge dinner. It was a lot of fun. We had some drinks. We had a good time. But one of his Kansas City friends, his name is Joe. And he's sitting I'm at one end of this table with 12 couples. He's at the other far end of this big square table. And we're talking. And at one point, Ryan or somebody brings up the podcast. And Dave's like, yeah, Hav has the comic book podcast. And Joe says, you're Hav from Jav and Charles Talk Comics? And at first I thought he was giving me shit. Everybody's giving each other shit. Uh-huh. And I was incredulous. And I was like, yeah, okay, haha. He's like, no, seriously. I listened to your podcast. You're Hav from that. And I was like, yeah. Did you get it from? He's like, I had it anyway, so shout out to Joe from Kansas City for being a fan of the podcast.
So it wasn't even because of
David? You know what? I don't
even
ask look. I may have had a few too many drinks.
Oh, okay.
And don't quite remember if I asked how it was that he came up. Maybe it was from Dave mentioning, hey, I got a buddy that does a comic book podcast. It might have been, but he listens and he enjoys it.
Very cool.
And then somehow the equine therapy thing came up, and I told that story, and Ryan was cracking up apparently. And that's I still sometimes when I'm just want a good laugh, I know exactly what episode that is in season, and we'll just cue it up to the middle part just to listen to it again, because I completely forgotten about it when we were recording, and your whole thing about we watched football. Anyways, so again,
you mean when I made the big callback to it? That time that you just blew through your head? I think I've done that more than once.
No. I'm just saying that even in the first time we talked about it, just
time.
that you had been over watching football, and we're like, I thought Julia told you, but I was like, nope, I had no idea. So, but the long and short of it for this purpose was, hey, if you're listening, shout out from Hav. It was nice meeting you at dinner, and thanks for listening, and I hope you keep on listening.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for listening. That's awesome. I've never had anybody. I have a coworker who has and he came up and quoted something to me recently about it was he was like, "Are you feeling all right? You said." Because he listened to the Charles Sick podcast.
There you go.
He's like, yeah, you sounded like crap.
You fought through it.
So thank you, Floyd, for worrying about me being sick. And if you're listening again, we appreciate all of our listeners. We really appreciate all of our listeners. All 7 of you. You are absolutely incredible. And I just wish some of you could write.
Oh, hey-oh.
Okay. No, so seriously, we do have a way you can contact us if you go to our website, havandcharles.com. There is a link up at the top of the page. You might have to landscape your phone if you're on your phone, or you might have to scroll a little bit because it's on a desktop. It's right at the top, or a laptop, but browsers on phones do a little different. I did find that out. But it says send Hav an email. You click that and you just fill out the little form, and it comes right to me. And depending Sorry about that. There is a car driving by.
Yeah.
Yeah, making a lot of noise. So depending on whether or not I think it's funny, I might forward it to Hav. The funny thing is I forwarded him some stuff sometimes and then he doesn't read it. And
or it gets to my junk mail somehow.
I
swear.
Sure, whatever. And so he doesn't read it, so he's still surprised. So a lot of times I don't. So if you want to surprise Hav, you can write something and say, "Hey, Charles, I don't tell Hav about this until you spring it on him in the podcast," and I will happily do that. And unfortunately, unless you have Hav's personal email, you can't do the opposite to me.
Good point.
Which would be cool if you did. I am all for it. I mean,
Yeah.
So if you want to email Hav his regular email address.
There you go. There you go.
Actually, now I kind of want to just make an email address that we say is yours, read that out, and see if people will send me things to hide from me, and that would amuse me. Anywho, so we did talk about another comic book.
We're going to talk about. We
are going to talk about another comic book that we read. I meant to say we read another comic book.
It's 30 minutes into the future, and we have talked about another comic book. Callback. Hey-o.
It's 40 minutes in the future, and Charles is done with the comic book, is done with the podcast, and he's crying in his house alone as usual. Wait, what? No, I'm sorry.
Oh. So I suggested reread House of M.
Yes.
And hey, this has been a fun podcast, and I'm glad we got to get. No, we're going to talk about House of M. Hey, because I don't know the answer to this. Let me just ask, what'd you think?
I like it. I liked it the first time I read it. It's a very good comic. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it's
right.
Look, for an event book, it's incredibly good. And one of the reasons it's an incredibly good event book is Bendis wrote it.
Yeah, the great Brian Michael Bendis. The pencils art is by Olivier Coipel. I'm going to say Coipel. Very good art.
And the nice thing about Bendis is he got all the characters.
Yes.
So unlike a lot of these group books where somebody's writing it and they got a good grasp of some of the characters and not all of the characters, you get these weird, well, I just need this guy to do this because of the thing. Nope, everybody acted the way they're going to act. It was excellent in the way it was done. And of course, Bendis is one of the top Spider-Man writers of all time, so he gets Spider-Man, and Spider-Man was in it. So he didn't make Spider-Man do weird-ass crap that sometimes they do in group books where they throw him in. And in fairness, he's not in group books a lot, so.
Well, he was just coming off. Bendis at the time was either just coming off or was still doing New Avengers, which had looped in Wolverine and Spidey as Avengers for the first time. And that's kind of where you...
Well, what year was this?
05.
05, yes. He'd also been writing Ultimate Spider-Man for 5 years.
There you go. And
that's what I'm saying is he knows Spider-Man. Even if it's a different Peter Parker, he understands that character.
I'm not disagreeing at all. I'm just saying he had, and then he had used him in New Avengers, and then I don't know if he had done a lot of X books or any, but he obviously did a good job on this, a banger job, if you will, on this.
Yes.
You start out with and I, you know what? I'm realizing we read these all sorts of out of order. This immediately leads into the X Factor run that we read with Layla Miller.
It absolutely does. No More Mutants.
Yeah. So kind of reverse order. It's
and Layla was in it.
A lot.
She was a instrumental piece of this thing.
Yes.
It made me want to pick up the X Factor again and read it again, and I may do that.
Hey, you can't go wrong with that X Factor run.
Oh
Peter
God,
David
that thing.
greatness.
That was moist, excellent.
Yeah. There's a big brouhaha in the Avengers where the old school Avengers are decimated by Scarlet Witch. She's losing her grasp on reality.
Yes.
And she kills Vision. She kills Hawkeye. And is that it? Or is there somebody else I'm blanking on? And then everybody's like, okay, Wanda's a problem. Like,
yes. We have to do something about her.
She can alter reality to the point where, because of Wolverine's membership in both the New Avengers and X-Men, they all get together to say, what are we going to do about Wanda?
What are we going to do about Wanda?
Very quickly, it devolves into or lands on, well...
Basically, the only solution... Yes, we're going to kill her. And there's a lot of people that are like, no, we don't. Like, that's not what we do.
Captain America is like, whoa, there's always a way. Yeah, and Wolverine's like, no, there's not.
Well, Wolverine is a hammer, and everything is a nail.
When Emma Frost is cold as ice, and is like, yeah, no. If Charles Xavier can't handle her,
yeah, that is the problem.
Trouble.
That is the problem. It is a nuclear bomb that you have to have a control. You have to dismantle the nuclear bomb because she is a bomb about to go off. This is unlike some questions they have in comic book universes that cause a brouhaha that you look at it and go, okay, that was lame. Why this is not the reason behind it. This is a hard question. We don't kill people. She could end the universe.
Yeah, she has
losing
reality
her mind.
altering powers.
Yeah, and she's losing her mind.
So you not fast forward. Pietro, her brother, Quicksilver, realizes what they're going to do. He begs and pleads to his father, we can't let them do this.
Yes.
And then hijinks ensue. Everybody, there's a big white light. Everybody wakes up, and the only people that know everything's not right are the people that were in a certain spot in time. No,
Wolverine.
No, it's just Wolverine.
Wolverine
Duh.
is the only one that remembers everything, and they say they think it's because they figure out that they think it's because his mind was so fucked up,
Wiped so many times.
that he was managed to hold on to that information, and then he has all the. Yeah.
And Layla Miller knows it's not right.
Yeah, and Layla Miller knows that it's not right, but Layla Miller
Was she
may not
created
have
in this universe?
See, that was what I was going to say. I think she's from this universe. I don't think she existed in the original 616.
I don't think so either. And I think it's implied that maybe Wanda, in the back of her mind, made her.
It's a failsafe. Yeah, she stuck a failsafe in there, or somewhere inside Wanda, subconsciously, she wants to make sure everything's right. Because Wanda also, the whole premise of the House of M is Magneto won. Mutants are the power now. They are the dominant species, and they treat humans terribly. Uh-huh. And it is every white right-winger's fear of if you give a minority power, that they're going to use that power to treat white males the way white males have treated everybody else forever.
For centuries.
Yes. They don't understand that it's equality. They think of, well, if somebody else has the same rights that I do, they're going to do to me what I did to them. Well, anyway, sorry.
Did you ever see that movie with Harry Belafonte and John Travolta where African Americans or black people in the United States are the...
I know of it. I don't think I ever watched it.
It made me think of that. I think I watched part of it too.
Okay.
It's just the premise. That's it. So House of M, it's very much Magneto's family is like the royal family of mutants, and to the point where he's been in charge for so long, they're having a special party, and so Namor's going.
In Genosha.
It's Genosha, right? Which is not devastated in this
Yes.
reality. Namor's going. Black Panther's going. The Queen of Kenya. Oh, because what Wanda does, at least for the people she knows, she gives them everything they ever wanted.
Yes. That causes a problem. So there's a great, we didn't read this, we just read the regular, but I've read the Spider-Man House of M.
Okay.
And have you ever read that?
Nope.
Oh, you should read that because they go on, because Spider-Man is not a mutant, but in the House of M, everybody thinks he's a mutant, so he's famous.
He plays along.
Well, no, he lets them think he's a mutant.
Gotcha.
And he has everything. Uncle Ben is alive.
That's right. I saw that.
Uncle Ben is alive. Gwen
Gwen's alive.
Stacy is alive, and they're married, and they have a kid.
That's
and
right.
J. Jonah Jameson is his bitch. He's his publicist. And he treats him like absolute... Well, he treats him the way J. Jonah Jameson treats Peter Parker. So then J. Jonah Jameson finds out that he's not a mutant. He finds his diary and publishes it. So he loses... So that doesn't all go on with this... But there is this whole... And then he quote, dies, but he fakes his death, and then he's off living with the thing. But... It's this stuff where he's married to Gwen, and Mary Jane Watson is a famous movie star.
Yes. Well, and that's why so Layla's thing is when she gets into proximity or touches people, they all their memories come back of the reality that was the real reality.
Yeah, she can do that. I think she has to actually do it. It's not just she's near them. She has to.
Or Emma's helping her augment her powers.
Because
Emma,
it took more than just that.
Yeah,
her being
but Emma
there.
even says that Layla's powers are like nothing she ever...
Yeah.
Like they do this whole thing where they're in her brain, and she's like, it's not mutant, it's not mystic, it's not...
Yeah.
It's something different.
She's a backdoor into the universe.
So it's just... So every time that happens, you've had people having these realizations, like... And then I think Peter even at once says, so MJ is better off without me.
Yes. That was... Yeah.
It's kind of heartbreaking.
Oh, God, when they come back... At the end of it, that's that scene where there's a group that remembers, because the group that remembered it at the end of it, when it all kind of is over, they're sitting at Avenger Mansion, and Luke Cage is sitting talking to Peter because Peter is just distraught because one, he just lost his uncle and Gwen Stacy, and he thinks that his current wife is better off without him, and he breaks this massive table. He slams his fist down on this conference table that right as Iron Man walks in, and Iron Man starts to go, who does not remember what happened, starts saying something. What's
the line for which they had to have been present when she said no more mutants? Or what?
I don't know. I think they had to be. I think they had to have talked to Layla because I don't think Iron Man had been around Layla. Iron Man was off because remember, Iron Man was one of the good humans and still had his power.
That's right.
And so they left him alone. Plus, Tony Stark's a prick. Anyway, I mean, yeah.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah. So, and that was because Tony Stark was about to starts to give shit to Peter, and Luke Cage is like, you shut the fuck up, basically. Leaving the fuck alone. You don't know what we went through. And you don't know what he went through on top of that. So, yeah, it's an interesting world. And one of the most fascinating, I loved the part where she made herself not have powers there.
You're right.
So the Scarlet Witch didn't have powers and had children.
Yep.
Except she did have powers because when they confronted her at one point, she kind of did a pocket universe thing within the pocket universe.
Well, that was a facade. It was not a real person that was out and about talking to everybody. She was in her own little enclave with her kids.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, it.
Yeah, she made a world where everybody would leave her alone and she could have her children that were not real. Part of the reason she went insane is at one point she made herself children, the children of She and Vision, i.e. what they did in WandaVision. And
she conjured them.
Yes, and the loss of them when they kept drives her crazy. Because, I mean, basically it's comic books, so the whole idea is women be crazy.
I think any parent that loses a child, they're going to be distraught.
Yes, obviously.
Inconsolable.
I didn't mean it like that, but
I know. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying it's just really reading these things where I always feel like they have to. It's 05. This came out in 05, by the way. First issue was August of 05. Yeah, I'm always interested in how they deal with mental illness of any type in these. And look, she's having issues, mental health issues of the umpteenth degree, and then when she's a walking weapon of mass destruction of reality.
Why didn't they just have Doc Samson talk to her?
Because Doc Samson is so good at that, right? He's had his track record speaks for itself.
I know. I'm just having fun with it's Doc Samson. It's like, dude,
therapist to the heroes.
Well, he's also a Hulk, and oh dear Lord. Could we get Dr. Phil on the line? Well, how's that working for you?
Let's see here. I enjoyed it. I was when I was reading it, I remember thinking, whatever I picked, you made me go first when we suggested these. So when I suggested House of M and then you dropped
Watchmen on top of your head,
and then I was like, oh.
I don't make you go first. I let you go first.
Okay.
Dude, what you're saying is you're going to change yours based on what I say if I go the other way. That's literally maybe. That's literally what you're saying.
You know what? I'm glad I didn't, because I would have thought, let's do Dark Knight Returns,
it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, that would have been too much. No.
It's too heavy.
This was
was fairly heavy.
This was fairly heavy, but it was also very well done.
Yes.
And everybody, of course, going back to the plot a little bit, everybody, of course, assumes Magneto's.
Oh yeah,
behind
it's like we got to get that son of a bit. We're killing him this time. I mean, the group of we're killing with this one. We're killing Magneto. This is it. This is too damn far. He has got to go, and it turns out to be Quicksilver, who, by the way, has never been a good guy.
No.
Quite frankly, though, the best Quicksilver is the Quicksilver in the movies. The
Marvel movies?
Fox, nope, the Fox movies.
Yes.
And it's just because the couple of scenes where he's
doing that scene in the kitchen.
Oh, the kitchen scene was incredible. And then when he saves everybody in
the mansion.
They did it again, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. But other than that,
I feel like somebody could do something really good with that character.
Yes.
and it just hasn't quite. I mean, was used very well for obviously purpose here.
Yes,
and to be the big bad.
And by the way, I loved it when they brought that same actor back to be in WandaVision when she brought back Pietro, except it was with the different from the other actor, and that's just like, oh my god, now I got to watch that show again.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Oh my god,
that was a good show.
It really was.
I liked WandaVision.
It was really well
and I
done.
still haven't watched Loki.
Bad Hav. But you saw the Marvels, right?
Yes, I loved it.
Oh my god, that was awesome.
It was such a good movie.
It was so fun.
Yes, just a nice, fun, good movie.
I don't get it's just doing awful and it's a bad movie. It's doing awful, but it ain't a bad movie.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
And look, I think I've thought about this. I put a little brain effort. It's just the way we consume movies in particular has changed radically because of COVID, especially when you're releasing stuff to streaming or people like me that can wait. Hey, I can wait a few months and wait for it to come on Disney Plus.
But the other thing that made it difficult, they could not promote it
because of the strike.
Because of the strike, you cannot. When you do a movie like that, you are inundated with. You'd have been inundated with all three of those Marvels on talk shows and here and there, and they're funny and they're great. And you're like, hey, I want to see that movie. That drives up all that because a lot of that is free advertising because and that's the things people want to see. You'll watch all these clips on YouTube. I want to see all three Marvels talking to each other because I saw some stuff after the strike ended. They did some stuff and it was cute and it was funny. And if they'd have been full court blasting that, I think it would have done better.
For a month or two before the movie drops.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But Disney did not want to pay actors, so they didn't have the opportunity to do that. So Disney lost a bunch of money, but they're going to try to blame it on the fact that they had women in it. It's like,
whatever.
I don't know what guys want. Do they want all movies with all men? The two adult actresses in that movie are both smoking hot, even if they never smile. I like it when a woman is stern with me. Anyway, so what?
Okay. No, and the young lady, I mean, it was very well. Okay, enough about that, I guess. But no, the young lady that plays Ms. Marvel, she's awesome. She is so exuberant and delightful and wonderful. I adore her. She's a fangirl in real life.
Yes.
Which is cool. And no, it was just, it was such a good movie. I can't recommend it enough. In fact, I'm waiting for Julie to want to go see it in the theater, which she said she will. So if she listens to this, it's not going to drop for a while. I told her there's one scene in particular that she's going to love because of the E.T. cat.
The Flurkin?
Yeah, the Flurkin. And the Flurkin reproduces. And there's Flurkin everywhere. And they're baby Flurkins. And it's cute.
That was Cindy's favorite scene.
It's freaking
That was Cindy's favorite
overload.
scene. Yes.
Okay, so look, I'm not trying to shortchange House of M.
Yes.
At all.
Okay.
It was 8 issues.
Yes.
I think 8 issues was good.
Yeah.
I don't think it was too long.
I don't think there was too much. I don't think there was too much of it. I think it was really good. And everything you needed was in that. There was extraneous. You could read other stuff in that world, but none of that was necessary to read those 8 issues and get what went on.
I didn't look. I think I looked on Hoopla. I didn't see an omnibus or something that collected all the House of M into one big tome or 2 volumes. I'm wondering if maybe on Marvel, which I think I maybe canceled my subscription for a second because I wasn't using it.
Okay.
I'm curious to read all of the House of M and every related title, which I know has to be at least 1,000 pages of comics.
I don't know if it's that big, but it was decent. It was decent. I don't know because it was only 8 issues, so that means it only went is that 8? Did they run that over 8 months?
I believe so.
Oh, wow. Well, no, I mean, did they run it in the Marvel universe, in the real universe over 8 months, or did they?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, because they might have just done some shorter runs with some other stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's not, because sometimes
it looks like, you know what? I take it back. It looks like they did 2 issues a month.
Okay, that makes more sense. So
House of M, maybe.
So then you might get some 4-issue arcs or some 6-issue arcs or some miniseries on top of that. So. No, I liked it. The whole at the end of it when she comes back from it and then says no more mutants and everybody loses. Does she lose her mutant powers too when she goes no more mutants?
I don't remember. I remember she just ends up. No, I don't think so. But she ends up in that village. Remember, in the mountains.
Oh,
and she's doing her own thing. Okay. I don't know that she does though. I don't know.
Okay, so she kind of ends up like she is at the beginning of the multiverse of madness. that kind of thing?
No, because I don't think she's using her powers. I think she's just in a village in the mountains in Eastern Europe somewhere. It looks like
Middle Eastern
just
Europe.
kind of sure.
Good old Middle Eastern Europe.
Whoopsie! I made up a new area of the world. You're welcome, everybody.
So it's the Middle East. You mean like Kansas?
No, East. Yes,
Like
not from
Kansas.
around here. Kansas.
Yeah, the Middle East.
The middle of the East. No, in some Eastern, because
Yes,
you're
I got
whatever.
you. Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I get you. So they're supposed to be Romanian. I mean, their dad's Jewish.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, because they were Romani,
That's right.
at least.
All right.
Or was
so,
it? No, wait, that's Doctor Doom. But it
No,
could be
Doctor Doom is Latvian. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I understand. Well, yes and no. We have
So-
never done anything with Doctor Doom.
Yes, we did, and
Well,
you hated
no.
it.
Well, I didn't.
The
hate
X-Men and Avengers, or X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Oh
comic.
God, that's right. Yeah. So
You
they're
hated it.
they're leading up to Secret. They're going to do Secret Wars, and
Yeah,
yeah. So what I'm saying is, for season 1, we're reading. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that.
We're gonna read everything that has Secret Wars in the title. Go. Starting, we got a lot of reading to do.
Oh, dear God, we've got a lot of reading to do, because when they did Secret Wars 3, that's right. I don't care what they called it. They did Secret Wars 2. I'm sorry. When they did Secret Wars 2 again, they shut down the entire Marvel universe, and everything was that. And there was a lot. And yes, I've read it, and I didn't dislike it. By the way, I sounded like it's hard. I just don't know how that's going to translate to movies. Is all I'm saying.
Hey, and Kevin Feige, I trust.
Yeah.
With few exceptions.
Yeah.
He's done some good flicks, some good storytelling.
Oh, speaking of Kevin Feige, so without using Kevin Feige, this idea, Dave Filoni just got promoted at Disney in the Star Wars department to basically chief creative. So all of the stuff that they're going to do, instead of them coming to him late in the process and go, hey, what do you think about what we're doing, that we're about to make this movie, that, well, we're 95% through with this movie and this is what we're doing, where could we tweak it? He's actually going to be brought in, kind of like they did in the DC universe with James Gunn and his guy.
Good.
They've got Filoni, who is as close to George Lucas as you can get. And they're giving him let's work on this, because he gave us I know he wasn't the guy that did The Mandalorian, but he had a lot to do with The Mandalorian. He did Rebels. He did The Clone Wars. The Clone Wars aren't my favorite, but there's some great shit in there.
Yeah.
And Star Wars Rebels is incredible. And then
Ahsoka.
Oh my God, I loved that. I got to go watch that again. So
It was great.
yeah.
I'm very this pleases me.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
I was excited. I love Dave Filoni. I think he is an excellent writer and creator and
showrunner, world builder.
He's a world builder, and he gets the Star Wars universe because he sat at George Lucas's knee.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they sat together. I don't think he actually sat at his knee. I mean, that would be weird, or on his knee, because
why would you go there? Yeah. So who's all weirded out about stuff?
I'm weirded about a workplace environment that George Lucas would make one of his producers sit on his knee. I don't think George Lucas is that. I don't think George Lucas is that guy. He seems like a really nice man. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. How dare you besmirch the good George Lucas?
I just said I think he's a nice man.
Okay.
I like the man.
I believe you.
He made my childhood.
Right? And Gene Roddenberry. Him and Gene Roddenberry.
More him.
Okay. So, hey.
So I think I think
Did we just finish? Are we almost done with season 3 or what?
We are almost done with season 3. This is the time where we thank people and discuss what we're going to read next. So Hav informed me, because we had talked about that we're possibly going to do a pod in between the 2 seasons where we talk about the Spider-Verse and the comic book Spider-Verse. Yes. Oh, if we talk about that, we'll be talking about the movies too. But yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, mainly the just, and the whole thing, because it is what is it? 900 pages, 600 pages, 1,000 pages.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Hav told me, he texted me yesterday that he's 200 pages in, and I'm like, holy shit, I haven't even started it. In fairness, I've read it more than once, so it's not as, and I will be reading it. It's not as important that I be delving into it as quick, but I'm excited to do that just as a, hey, let Charles talk about Spider-Man for an hour and a half.
Look, I am about 200 pages into it, and I'm looking. It's about 700 pages, but I want to make sure I'm reading the right one. Will you send me the screenshot again?
Okay.
I think I looked at the screenshot, and I think I'm reading the right one, but I kind of just.
Well, I think if it's 700 some pages, I'm pretty sure you got the right one. But okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to look it up again.
It is. Like I said, I am going through it for rather quickly.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's really good.
It's fun.
And then, do you want to know what I'm going to suggest for you for the first episode next year? Or you just
yes,
want
I
to
do.
leave it as a cliffhanger?
No, I want to do it. I want to do it to it. Like, how did you say that once?
Do it to it like Pruitt used to do it to it.
There you go. Do it to it like Pruitt used to do it to it.
I'm gonna end on X. I'm gonna start on X.
Oh,
so a very much more recent thing that a pretty good recent writer that kind of hit his stride here. Jonathan Hickman did House of X, Powers of X. It's on the Hoopla. House of X / Powers of X. It's a complete reboot of the X-Men part of the Marvel Universe. Do you know what you're going to suggest for? I know we're going to do a special episode just about Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're going to suggest for our first episode of next season?
Yes, I've decided I'm going to go older, and we're just going to do the Superman Red Son.
Cool.
Because we both wanted to read it. We want to talk about it. It's a fun comic book, and it'll be good. Well, or not. It's been a year or two since I've read it. It'll be good. I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, there you go.
Wow. So we have done now 3 seasons of this podcast. I have truly enjoyed it. I really appreciate all of y'all that listen. I know I make jokes about you not writing. That is fine if you don't want to email us. I do like looking and seeing that people have actually listened. And I like talking to our friends that listen and that they tell us that they enjoy us and that we're giant fucking dorks, and they're correct.
Fair.
I mean, yeah, giant fucking dorks. I mean, I'm almost 6'4", so.
Yeah, you're a bigger giant dork than I am.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Well, height-wise.
Height-wise,
Are we going to do weight?
No, hey, whoa. How dare you attack me? No, likewise. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And like I always say, and I always mean it, thank you to Charles for doing all the heavy lifting on the production, the editing, getting it out there to everybody, publishing it. Thank you to Patrick for the website. Thank you to my wife for putting up with me doing this at weird times. And like, hey, do you mind taking all the dogs upstairs and so they're not barking in the background? And thank you to everybody. I really mean it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the reading. I enjoy doing the podcast with you, Charles. And it's just fun. I have way more fun doing this than I probably should.
No, I think we have just the right amount of fun. It is a blast. Julie, thank you very much for allowing Hav to do this.
Yes.
It is wonderful, and thank you very much for the times you email me about what Hav's done wrong. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy that.
Hey, me too.
It just cracks me up. And I don't mean that in a bad way because I adore Hav. So
Julie's a really good writer too, by the way.
Yeah, she is.
I don't know if that email she sent was
when she writes
written.
it, she writes them well too. It's just it's wonderful. So all right.
Okay.
So thank you. We look forward to joining y'all again in season 2. Hey, we should get with Caesar. Yeah. Sorry.
Or season 2.
It's 10:30.
Yeah. Man.
Maybe we should talk to Caesar and see if he wants to do a Marvels pod.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
We need to.
So,
all right.
Excellent. Thank y'all very much for listening. Y'all have a happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.